So I get up thinking I'm going to respond to another stupid Geeks and Gamers video, but turns out to be a double treat because Jeremy doubles down on stupidity in two ways. So we're going to treat both issues. On both issues, he's radically wrong. For the full coverage, I will have to do an extra video, so look out for that. So what's the main topic? Well, allegedly, it's Game of Thrones is going woke. It's got a lot of feminism, got a lot of communism. It's got a whole lot of left wing politics. Yeah, we knew that already. We knew that. If you had read the books, if you know George's orientation, and even I'd have to reluctantly admit, Benioff and Weiss are kind of more on the liberal side of stuff, although I'd say they're more fascistic. And unfortunately, that's becoming a very popular category of mixing liberal and fascist politics. So be it. Yeah, as always, he's being very illiterate and not understanding the show. But apparently, he's finally got a gotcha quote from Ryan Condal, who is the showrunner for the House of the Dragons, and how we had better stay away from the usual Holly woke evil racism against the white people.
These clowns are admitting it up front. So let's read the article here from the Daily Wire. House of Dragons showrunners say they're intentionally including a more diverse cast in Game of Thrones spinoff sequel. Showrunners have crafted reimagined versions of characters from George R.R. Martin's original book for the new series, which will premiere August 21st on HBO Max. One of their ideas is adding black actors to the roster of main characters and not as an afterthought. We're not racist. We have black characters in our show. It was very important for Miguel and I to create a show that was not a bunch of white people on screen. Oh, white people bad. We can't have any white people. No. We have the virtue signal. We have to prove that we're not racist because we have black actors in our show.
Well, I'm a little torn because I do think House of the Dragons should be given a legitimate chance, and I don't want to stir up an old controversy, which I need to do more thorough work on. For those who don't know, there was a big controversy that certain actors were chosen for the role of certain Targaryens as well as other key players in the story of House of the Dragon. And there's been a big debate among the fandom whether this is canonical, not canonical. Is it woke? Is it not woke? Does it violate the books? Does it not violate the books? But good or bad, George has clarified they're not following the books. Which, I gotta be honest, I'm actually kind of grateful for because while I do admire A Song of Ice and Fire, even with all its ups and downs, it does have a lot of problems. But I think there are certain passages and certain characters which I think are very strong. But in terms of the wider universe, it's a little bit all over the place. I still have to catch up on the Dunk and Egg stuff, and there's a lot of short stories, and then there's this thing, Fire and Blood, which ostensibly is the source material, and I'm kind of mixed on that. My own reading of it, if they're not following the book or the books in the wider universe, I really don't care. But I do think, yes, we should be alert to bad racial politics, even if the canonical author says it's okay. I mean, I think, you're going to be careful with that. But there is reasons for that, which Jeremy totally ignores.
These clowns are already telling you what their focus is. And so, but we didn't want to do it in a way that felt like it was an afterthought or worse, tokenism. The solution presented itself. Oh, the solution presented itself. So you created a problem. You created a problem so that you could then solve the problem. Pretty interesting how that works, huh? They created a problem so that they could then solve the problem that they created. See, this is what social justice is all about. It's about creating a fake problem that doesn't exist so that you can then solve that problem, and then you're the hero.
I'd hate to say that I'm laughing at Jeremy's stupidity, but he does do this quite regularly. All he does is turn on his computer, read the article, read it badly, and the answer to his question is right there. He answered the question. He literally answered the question. Not knowing anything about Game of Thrones, he immediately goes to, always season 8 really was a disaster. It was really terrible. I don't disagree with that. I've done videos on that. That's fine. Me and him are in agreement there, but I don't think he realizes what Ryan is responding to just to be fair to him. And this is a wider issue, and I'll have to do more work on this. But the problem was that Benioff and Weiss, and to be fair to them, they did it both ways. They did get rid of, and this is not questionable. We know this. This is a fact. It's an empirical fact. They got rid of tons and tons of characters. Now, a lot of those characters were, yes, black. We know that they're black. They're described as black. It's pretty clear that they're black, but they weren't in the show. But there were also a lot of white characters not in the show. There were just a lot of characters they completely got rid of for very questionable reasons. And then they took characters who were not described as black and they made them black. Why they are black, I have not a clue, but they were made black for whatever reason. And then they decided to pump up the role of Grey Worm and Masunde. Now, I like Masunde. I think it's played by a very beautiful actress. I think she's very talented. I think she did a lot with the role. So she's a very stunning woman. I think overall Missandei was actually done a lot of justice, although again it's not really in the books, and they changed a lot. They actually made it more conservative because Daenerys is actually a lesbian. From what I remember, she's openly lesbian. So they changed a lot of things. They made it more sexually conservative, more racially conservative, and they also made it more liberal in terms of race and gender and other stuff. So it was a little bit all over the place. So Ryan is coming in. They totally destroyed the brand. They totally destroyed the show. They alienated millions of fans on both sides. The right wing fans didn't like the way certain things went, and left wing fans didn't like certain things that were done with Daenerys and other characters. So they basically just screwed up everything. And even George apparently now publicly saying he wasn't too happy with how the whole thing ended. So this thing is a complete mess. It's been totally destroyed and broken. And he's got to also deal with the politics of the situation. So I just take it for what it is. He's laughingly saying, okay, they kind of screwed it up with a lot of stuff, with the fans, with the casting, and with just the wider public. So I'm going to try to go the other direction and correct things. Maybe he went overboard by having more black characters and things like that. Overall, I have no major issue. I do think the canon should not be totally destroyed, so we have to wait and see. Some of the casting choices I think actually make sense. They're not really, to me, a big issue. Having an Asian woman here and there, I think makes sense. Even having a black woman here does make sense within the lore. But I think with Corliss and a couple other things, I'm a little suspicious why they did certain things, but that's me. But again, in terms of the backstory, apparently George is like, no, he actually did think about, using black conquerors. Well, again, unfortunately, George has lied to us, so I'll double check whether that's really true and whether he ever hinted at that. I don't think he did. Jeremy is suddenly rewriting the history that Ryan Condal is this anti-white racist. There's no evidence of that. Are these legitimate choices? We're gonna have to wait and see. I think it's a little tricky and all over the place. Jeremy, as always, should have done more research because he is ironically defending Benioff and Weiss. Benioff and Weiss were very close to actually doing a show in the Confederacy, which sounds crazy today, but they actually almost did this. They almost pulled the trigger and let them do this weirdo alternative reading of the Confederate South, knowing their weird sexual racial fantasies about torturing black women and then killing them off and looking at them naked. I just don't foresee that would have been a good idea. I think it would have had a lot of problems. But according to Jeremy, hey, we should never criticize the white man. We should always trust the beautiful white man, unless he's acting anti-white. Well, I don't think Benioff and Weiss were going to plan on demonizing the white man completely. I think all the indications is they were going to do something more crazy and stupid. And HBO was even going to go along with it, and they only pulled the plug at the last minute. We have to live in the real world. George has signed off on Ryan. From all I can see, Ryan is a good writer. He does know the lore. He's a big fan of George. They seem to get along well. Might there be a better choice? Perhaps. Might they have done better casting? Perhaps. Is some of the politics here suspicious? I think so. Well, I think House of Dragon will totally repair what they did with Game of Thrones. No, I think it's over. I think they definitely destroyed a lot of the mythology, but listen, I'm just looking forward to a lot of good dragon fights. Some of the actresses and actors look okay. They seem to be actually talented people, so I'm going to give it a chance. I don't see any woke threat here, but yeah, was he perhaps being unwise to trigger some alt-right people by speaking like that? Yeah, the alt-right people are going to, be triggered very easily. Nothing too suspicious, but it does get back into the canon is being a little bit played with in this show, and that is how it is. They could have done a better job with it, but overall, given the mess that Benioff and Weiss left, there's not too much to criticize, at least so far, but we'll have to wait and see.